Hello guys, happy Father's Day to all the amazing dad out there today. Today we are out here to celebrate men and the values they've instilled on their children. And we have this myth in this generation that men are not celebrated enough. So today I have two amazing men who happens to be future fathers, coming up on this podcast today to share with us, what they believe or to debunk the myth of fatherhood. So I will let them do the introduction, but I'll start from this gentleman from my right. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing really good.
Okay.
So my name is Sammy. I'm a man, a married man,
Okay.
a happily married man.
I like how you're breaking it.
I'm expanding it because I don't know what else you want me to say. But yes, that's who I am. I work, of course, I play a lot. And I make time to also do the things that are important, pray, enjoy life, spend time with my family. That's it. Really.
Amazing. We'll come back to you though, but let's also listen to this gentleman on the left.
Thank you very much. My name is Alex. Happily married also. All I just do is work, try to make the society feel like I'm doing my own part as a man.
Amazing.
And basically do what it takes to just keep the home in check always. You get
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about having the both of you here today is the fact that you guys are very young and you guys are married.
Right?
And I think it's beautiful to marry early. As a single man who is hoping to get married pretty soon too.
come up with that.
Welcome.
So let's start from there. Let's start from there. What has marriage been like for you? I think I would love to start with you,
Okay.
Mr. Alex.
All right, so thank you very much. I actually wanted to get married at the age of 25. Growing up, I've always had this thing about, getting married early. Actually, my dad got married at the age of 25. But it didn't really happen like that for me at the end of the day. I think so getting married early would really help you a lot as a man. I know some people would be of the school of thoughts that you need to get to the age of 30 or more before you can get married. Basically, they think that I'm not the kind of guy that would believe that with age comes wisdom. At any age, if you seek for wisdom, you would always find it. So for myself, I think whenever you feel or when you know that you're
ready,
you are ready and you're ready to take a certain level of responsibility other than yourself alone, then you should just go for it. But before then, there is a preparatory stage that you must go through. Yeah, of course.
Amazing. What do you have to say?
I mean, for me, if I should put it this way, I've lived so many lives before this one. I've had so many kinds of experiences. It's been quite a bit. But the one thing being married early on has shown me is that it kind of centers you. It gives you a focus. It gives you a direction for life. You're no more living a certain kind of sporadic life. Like it has a certain amount of balance to it, where even you're going out in the morning has a vision. You're trying to put food on table for someone or some people.
Wow.
I mean, wife and kids in that case. So it gives you a real sense of focus. It gives you a sense of value. You get to understand what's truly important. So many things just don't mean as much anymore. Especially it's kind of like a man who, like me, I love spending time with my wife. I like it. So anything that's going to take me out of that space has to be something tangible. You get what I mean? So it won't just be a situation where, it's like, guy, come, let's go to this place. Oh yeah, let's be going. Guy, I'm not going with you if it doesn't make sense. So it's something, it's stuff like that. Yeah.
I think I'm going to feel sad on this podcast because two married men and I'm the single one. It's unfair.
That's why we can't wait for you to
Welcome.
We're still looking for the one. Okay, but before we get into it, today we're all out here to celebrate fatherhood and the fights that goes behind the scene. And fatherhood is like the unsung heroes, basically. So what would you say? There's this myth that is currently going on that fatherhood or men in general are not celebrated in this generation. Do you believe so?
First off, I do. I agree. And I would say why. I think we live in a generation that doesn't understand balance. Everyone kind of shuffles between two extremes. So you have people who believe, and rightly so as well, that women ought to be celebrated. And as I said, rightly so. I also believe the same thing. But because people don't understand balance, they think that has to be at the detriment of men. So everything kind of becomes lopsided. So when you see people who believe it the other way around, you see that they don't appreciate women either. It's just a men kind of thing. So it's like we've gotten that kind of cultural orientation where everyone just either is on this side or on that side. So the same way you've asked now, you could very likely see someone who would say that, oh, I don't believe men are not celebrated enough. And then they start making an argument for why women ought to be celebrated more. They shift the goalpost totally. You understand? So it's that kind of thing. It's just like, I mean, there can be a balance. Two things can be right at the same time. And that's what I think, yeah.
That's beautiful. Alex, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm trying not to get emotional about this. Honestly, the truth of the matter is I'm also of that school of thoughts. Men, we honestly don't get to be celebrated as much as we get to celebrate women. And just like Sammy said, there should be a balance. You get to see, I think it's a societal thing. You know, there's this focus on women, the girl child. There's just a lot of focus to the point where you get to see a lot of NGOs focusing on the female gender than the male. You understand? And forgetting the fact that at the end of the day, these ladies will end up submitting under these men. So even from the onset, from as a child, you get to see them telling the lady, sit here, you know, do this, go help your mom in the kitchen. Nobody really wants to draw attention to the male child. You understand?
Yeah.
Then in terms of being celebrated, I think it's more of the fact that the woman carries the child for 9 months. But we don't really talk about the emotional effects for the man. It's not like you're just seeing the woman carrying the child alone. There is a lot. Like in that state, the hormones are high. Like it's I've had a lot of pregnant women. I've had to, you know, deal with, not, you understand. Like I've had experiences with a lot of pregnant women, like my elder sister, my uncle's wife, and a lot of them. And it's not easy, you understand. The woman can just wake up in the night and tell you that, Omo, I want this Iyabash stew, and it has to be that one at that junction. So even if you can't find it, like it's just so much. And at the end of the day, I think even in terms of celebrating men, how do we really celebrate these men? I think last week I was going through a chat. Wanted to celebrate a guy.
Yeah.
Wanted to celebrate a guy in our group, and then the ladies were just saying, what can we get him? You know, aside boxers and singlets and, you know, perfumes, what did they get for? Like, and I'm like, when you want to talk about you know, going out there to celebrate a woman, there's an array of gifts you can actually go. They would even expect cars, houses. But when you want to celebrate them, like it's crazy, because you start thinking about, okay, let me buy him a tie. Come on, no. Let's not do that. Okay, let's even look at let's look at our calendar. You get to see, like, I don't know, it's like we have like almost 52 Mother's Day.
That's every
it's rightly so though. It's rightly so though.
It's so much that compared to the days set aside to celebrate men. And I think we don't really get to these things, in a way, makes men, we don't really get to talk about this, but we just get to suck it up. But it makes men feel less valued in society. You know, there's this form of segregation, or just you
feel like one side is celebrated more.
Of course. And it's really not nice. You understand? Because at the end of the day, it makes for an abuse of the true masculinity. Because at the end of the day, we want to make ourselves known, but we may end up going about it the wrong way. Trying to prove a point, or trying to prove that our value should be kept at where it's
at a certain level.
Understand? So, man,
It's a whole lot.
Let me know.
I think thank God you said what you said, because it led up to the next question. You know, in this generation, when you talk about masculinity, it's mostly related to toxicity.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks about it in a toxic manner. And sometimes, I think even earlier on today, when we were still setting up, a friend was talking about during celebration of men, men still give the money to be celebrated. You know, and all of that. And I think we've had instances where men would, you know, go all out for people, even people they don't know.
Yeah.
I think one of those simple attributes is maybe when you're on the road, maybe you're working with the opposite gender, you tend to take the opposite gender off the like the highway to like the safe lane and go to the highway part of it. Or you're in a public vehicle, you tell the person to go to the back seat where it's more secure. Why do you think men do that? And I believe that it's like our masculinity, obviously, it's like an instinct. So why do you think men are built that way?
I think, well, it goes back to that word balance, to be fair. There, of course, is a place for that. There's a place for chivalry, right? Because men and women aren't exactly the same. So there actually are roles set from the way God institutionalized the way the planet ought to work, right? So there's a reason why he brought the woman out of the man. The Bible makes reference to the woman, not of course from any form of condescending way, but as a weaker vessel. And if you study enough, you would get to know what that meant, and you would understand that it wasn't condescending. However, there's a place for lack of a better term, strength of a man. And we know what that is in terms of the fact that you're married as well. You know what it is. If someone comes to burgle your house now, you jump in front of the person, you won't expect your wife to do it.
Of course.
Abi?
Of course.
That's what it is. It has never happened to me. And I don't want it to happen. But let's assume it does, right? I believe that would have to be my reaction. And if I don't react that way, I would regret it the next day.
Yeah,
you
most
understand?
definitely.
So there's a place for that. And I think as men, you kind of are aware of it inherently, but then the environment you grow up in now conditions you to either take it extreme or understand it for what it really should be. So you see guys who grow up in some kinds of environments where it's hammered in every single day with every single step they take that, oh, this is the way a man ought to do it. These are the things that are peculiar to women. For example, crying. You see someone who gets it drummed into his head from birth that he shouldn't cry.
Yeah, man.
Crying is for women, you know, and you kind of grow up like that.
Yeah.
To the point where you've built so many walls around you that you can't even feel emotion anymore. And it's like a strange thing, you get. So as men, there's a place for our understanding of what masculinity really is, but then given the kind of environment, particularly in a society like ours here in Nigeria, you just grow up being exposed to more of the toxic sides, you know, where literally you'd see arguments. I've had situations where someone was speaking to maybe a friend of mine somewhere, a female, in a certain way. And then maybe I happen to see it on the road or something, and I walk across there and the person is like, better person, let me even talk to you. You know, that kind of thing. Just because now he feels like, since he's a man, someone he can reason with more. And you know, so even the toxic aspects are not even up to the extreme situations like violence or whatever. Even little subtleties like this, it exposes the real toxicity in many of us that we don't even realize. Actually, there are these unconscious biases that we've made based on gender. So while there is a place for masculinity in itself, again, balance.
Okay, so that was such an insightful perspective you shared. It was so deep and profound. And I think I have a lot to say, more questions to ask, but I think I would just let Mr. Alex say something, because he's been shaking his head ever since.
The way his face, he has things to say.
He has a lot to say. Okay, so, Mr. Alex, what do you...
So for me, right, I totally agree with what Sammy said. He was quite spot on. The thing is, it's grossly out of an environmental factor. You understand? The experience a man has from being a child would grossly affect how he would, portray his masculinity at the end of the day. So another thing is the fact that I would like men to also get to understand that masculinity is not it's not to be abused. You understand? It's not something that you would want to use to make to prove a point. You understand? The life of a man is sacrificial. Take it anywhere.
That's deep.
The life of a man is grossly sacrificial.
That's deep.
So it's difficult to live for yourself. In fact, I remember one of those days when I was having my premarital counseling. One advice stood out for me. He looked me in the eyes and said that he would always advise any man who is about to get married to, first of all, before you get married, he said, go and buy clothes, because once you're married,
no more.
He said, once you're married, it will be very difficult for you to take out money to do anything for yourself. And the truth of the matter is, before you see me buy anything new, it's my babe that is getting it for me now. Like, it's difficult for me to take out money. It's not like I don't have it, but before I want to do one or two things, I would have to think about every other household need. You understand? So it's difficult, but then trying to connect this with being toxic, like I said, it's an environmental factor thing. So at the end of the day, if a man grows up with a dysfunctional mindset, there is no way he wouldn't portray that same dysfunctionality in his actions.
Wow.
You understand? We don't really know how to receive love. Like Sammy said, talking about how to, like, being a man, don't cry, all these things. There are times like, okay, my birthday was like a few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago. My wife gave me all the gifts. I was just like, I love you. I was singing and I was just it's okay.
That was me.
It's okay. Yeah, happy birthday to me. It's okay. We don't know. We're not taught how to receive love. We're not taught how to express our emotions. You understand? And the funny thing, the painful part of this is that we didn't choose to be male gender. You understand? We're not prepared for this. We've not lived this life before. Even being a married man, there are certain things that you were not taught. There are certain things you were not prepared for.
You have to learn.
You understand?
Inside.
You just have to learn it, and it's a lot. You understand? Like I said, the life of a man is sacrificial. Okay. You can have 500K and feel like you're balling. That might be your last card in the next 30 seconds. One demand.
Fact.
You can't even plan. You can't budget on anything that you have. So you can just do the next thing. We're going to the market. So this. That. I thought we went to the market like 2 weeks ago. You understand? Okay, now we also need this and this and that. That money that you were thinking would last for like 2 weeks. The next thing no more, it's almost out. You understand? So the life of a man is grossly sacrificial.
That's very deep. And I think one thing I picked from that is men are not built to be very expressive.
Of course.
Yeah, because I can relate to that in many ways. My birthday, I think I was just, everybody was coming and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't like this energy. It's okay. But this is one question I actually want to ask though. As a man, have you ever felt like your value was tied down to what you could offer? And I think I want to start that with you.
When have we never ever felt that way? So the society will just make you feel like, man, okay, yes, of course, even the Bible says, like, you being the head, you're the provider.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't also want to be babied. Do you get? Like, I want to also feel like a baby. I want to relax and be taken care of. You understand? I also want to have that. You understand? We had mothers. You understand? And growing up, we felt that tender care and all. So it shouldn't stop. Even I'm not trying to say that as a man, that should be your major focus. No, but I'm just trying to say, don't lose out on taking care and pampering the man too. I don't know if you get my point.
Making him feel
valued. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily has to be tied to what he has to offer. Most times, I think it's also out of societal norms.
Right.
You get. So women only want to place a certain kind of value to a man as long as he does the needful, forgetting that life can be live at any point in time. So what that necessarily what it implies is that when life is live, or when he's going through life, and I know you get what I mean, you understand, does that mean that his value should diminish at that very point in time? You understand? So what happens when he's out of business? What happens when the market crashes? What happens when he's at his low moments? Shouldn't you be there for him? Shouldn't you still make him feel like the king that he is? That should even, be like a booster for him, not just to water down and make him feel more devalued. When we go out there are a lot of things we get to face. Sammy knows it now. There are things that your boss will make you, like, there are days that your boss will make you feel like, oh, more, you're not doing anything at all. Like, you get the basketballs from the office. There are days that, and when I'm in such situations, like, I cave in. Like, I don't get to smile. I don't, like, I just want someone to sing some level of praises and make me feel like I am enough regardless. So at the point when my value is directly proportional to my ability to offer you, let's say, things, offer you money and all, then it just means that you only put the man at the edge always. He starts seeing himself as one who walks on eggshells.
Yeah.
So you try to see him trying to make sure, because I want to keep my reps. I want to keep my reps. Let me not show this weakness. Let me try my best not to be vulnerable to the point of letting a woman see me in my low times. I don't know if you get my point.
That makes
so
sense.
It can be very crazy sometimes.
I think that's deep.
It's quite emotional. We don't really get to talk about this.
Yes.
So I'm like, it's.
Here's the thing. For me, whilst I agree with you totally, I also think there's a responsibility on the man himself.
Yeah.
As a guy, I believe that one of the best gifts you can give yourself as a young man is getting to understand your value beyond money.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, whilst you say yes, many women, once the guy is not providing this, that, and the other, the truth is many men themselves don't even know what that's like. They don't have any sense of intrinsic value beyond what they can provide. They themselves will be the first to feel it. You understand? And do I feel that way now? No. But I've been in a space. In fact, let me give you a story.
Amazing.
When my wife and I started talking, this was a couple of years ago, we started getting to know each other. And we got close to what would be termed as dating. Yeah, we were in a relationship. And at the time, I didn't have a job. I had tried different businesses. I was still trying stuff. None of it was working. I was grounded money-wise, right? And it was a really tough time for me. She was working. She was doing pretty good, And I remember there was a particular period where her phone was bad. She wanted to get a new one for herself. She could afford to do it. But I'm like, nah, man, I'll do it. I was chasing one deal with one car business I started at the time. And I'm like, this is going to go through within the next few weeks. Don't worry. I got you. I'll cover it. Don't worry. And she's like, no, don't worry. Let me just buy it. She had sense. She knew that this guy, really get. Let me not put him on one kind of high jump. But I was like, no, don't worry. I'll take care of it. And I think a couple of weeks later, of course, the deal fell through. Nothing happened. And then her sister got her a phone. And she told me about it the day it happened. And even though I was happy, I couldn't express the excitement. And the reason was because I was happy for her for getting a new phone. She wanted one. She needed one at the time. But deep down, what it signified to me was kind of like a reminder of the fact that I didn't have. Bro, if I tell you that the next couple of weeks in that relationship were the most terrible ever. Like, she was working, of course. She's a chartered accountant. She's extremely busy at her work. If I text her, I'm at home doing nothing at the time. If I text her and she doesn't reply in like 5 minutes, I'm getting all cranky. What's happening? What? Because to me, what was in my mind at the time was that I have nothing right now. I don't really believe that she actually really likes me like that. Because she can't possibly like me
when you're not offering something.
That was all I thought to myself. In all honesty, that was my belief. So anything that happened, I read it the wrong way. Any kind of argument we had, I took it as, oh, she's trying to find a way out, stuff like that. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I was so much in that phase, until, and that's one of the reasons why mentorship is important.
Yeah.
Because if you have someone who has walked that path before, they can see those symptoms and call you out immediately that, bruv, this is where you are going. That's the wrong way, And it took people talking to me for me to realize that, look, before I even expect her to appreciate me beyond money, I have to first do it for myself. Wow. That's actually where I would even realize the reality of the matter. Oh. And the more I did that, the more I actually realized that she didn't really see it that way at all. In fact, she was so into it that she was worried. She perceived me to be the one who was trying to find a way out. Yeah, it was that, trust me, it was that bad at the time. So, like things like that, it's a gift you give yourself as a guy to sit down with yourself. If you need to get a pen and paper and write it down, like beyond my ability to provide, beyond the fact that I have money, if at all you do, right? Or if you don't, what are the things about myself that I can say that I like about myself? That if I saw in someone else, I would want to be his guy on that basis. That if I was a lady, I would want to be with a guy on that basis. What are those things that I can say about myself that I, quote unquote, bring to the table? That kind of thing. So, yeah.
This is an experience where I'm basically also learning in the process. And this thing you just said made me understand something. There, when you were in the world out here and you were working, most times when you apply for jobs, you think you entirely focus on yourself and not from the perspective of the organization you're trying to apply for.
True.
And most times when you're focused on yourself and not the organization, you tend to think you know what the organization wants and not from the perspective of what the organization actually wants. So most times you don't get the job, which is what you meant by, you assumed that this was what she was looking out for.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, in reality, she was...
At all. Yeah.
Assumption is actually number one's man enemy. That I would say. But I would want to recycle back. I would really love to recycle back. This is going to be a very emotional question. Was there any time, I think I want to start with you. Can you recall any moment you wanted to be you wanted emotional support, but didn't know how to, ask for it?
I mean, I can't only remember a moment. There are many. There are many. Like, where do you turn to even? There are so many. Again, one particular one, I've always been kind of a loner. I have a lot of friends, a whole lot. But when it comes to the real nitty-gritty of life, I just kind of process by myself. In this same period, that example I gave, that same period where I didn't have much, no job, nothing, there was one time, of course, that was the period where, she already knew my intentions and everything. And so she asked me one day, the whole question of 5-year, 10-year plan, all those things. And I broke down uncontrollably, bro. I didn't even understand why. To start with, for the first 2 minutes or so, I didn't even get why I was just in tatters. But I was in tears, bawling out my eyes like no man's business. And of course, I'm sure she would have felt really awkward in that moment because the question didn't seem that deep, you get. But it was like the first time in my life where I've had times in my life where there was no money. But this was the first time when there was no direction. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know what to do. and I didn't know who to talk to about it. I was literally just living life one day at a time. And that, it kills. Because although I cried out that day, honestly, when I was done, I went to church, I came out, I felt better than I had for time. Because I had expressed something that was buried deep down, that I was just walking around with the whole time. And so there are times like that as a guy where you don't know who to lean on, but you know there's a problem you would like to express. And if you're not someone who has the right people around, maybe the right circle of friends, maybe mentors, you know, people who are responsible enough to listen, to really listen to what is going on, or maybe not even listen, to observe. Because there are some people that could even pick stuff out without you even having to say certain things. You understand? If you don't have that, then it could be really dangerous, because you could either end up at a time where you would break down or you would explode. And trust me, in my own opinion, breaking down may even be better. Like that kind of crying time, you know. So yeah, there have been times when, you know, you get to feel like that, and it's a, if I could just piggyback on something Alex said earlier, and also answers the question you asked earlier, that why do you think men are not celebrated as much? In all fairness, I feel like the understanding of the sacrifice of being a man is not there. And many guys know it. That's why they don't talk. Guys know that people don't understand the sacrifice of being a guy.
True.
This is not to in any way diminish or demean the sacrifice of being a woman. But some aspects, there are a lot more aspects, because I believe being a woman is incredibly tasking. I can't even imagine it, right? But some aspects of it are physical enough that people can see, i.e. pregnancy, you know, if you talk about, you know, menstrual cycles and the likes. You can't feel it because we as guys, we've never felt it, and I'm sure it's much more difficult than you can even imagine. But at least you can relate to it on a pictorial level that, okay, this is a tough time. This is a tough time. But if a man was to sit down and say how difficult it really is to be a guy, to begin with, he probably can't even explain it.
You can't.
And so,
actually,
as guys, we actually know that people won't understand.
Yeah.
So you rather just not talk about it, and you just bottle it up, because you don't want to be laughed at. You don't want to be seen as weak. You see other guys kind of like muscle through and just push through it. So you kind of feel like, if this guy is doing it, why will I now say, oh, because I'm feeling this way, I should be, you know, taking time off or breaking down? It's kind of like, no
breaks.
This guy is pushing through. No breaks, my G. We have to push it through, you know, something like that. So yeah, I mean, there are times like that, to be honest.
Okay, so I think there's something I actually want to ask you, Alex, and this is experiential for me. And why I said it's experiential is, growing up as a child, my dad had me when he was very young. For the record, my dad is a young man. You know, so I'm half my dad's age.
Oh, wow.
That's to give you an idea. So dad had me when he was probably my age at the time. I think around 23, 22, when he was 22, you know. And I didn't get it at first when my dad would come back from work. And trust me, I was a straight A student in school.
Congrats.
No, I flunk out in like my senior secondary.
You should have not told us that part.
No. It's good to tell like the real truth. But my dad would come back from work, you know, with his, at the time he was working for one construction company, you know. That was an opportunity to go to university, you know, finish school and stuff like that. So when he comes back, I'm outside just playing, or maybe I'm just sitting down. He beats me for no reason. You know, you could just come back with his shoe, kicked me. And I'm like, what did I do? At the end of the term, I come back with first position. At most, second. But I didn't get it at first. But growing up now, I got to understand why then it was frustrating for him. Because he was a young man who had to take on a responsibility that was harder for him to handle at that time. You know, it's one thing when you're a single person and you're staying alone and you can just deal with your, today food no day, make I just deal, right? But now you have to think, oh, wife D, pikin D. Understand? And you start thinking about that. And when you go out and come back, the frustration makes you do some radical things. Understand? So the question I want to ask goes this way. What do you think? It's deeper. Even thinking about it is deeper.
What do I think about?
What do you think about fatherhood in the sense of sacrifice? And when I say sacrifice, what's one thing your dad did that now you're grown? Because maybe probably when you were younger, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
But now you're grown and you're like, this man was going through hell, but he was still showing up.
Ah, man. Like, I know that this session would be quite an emotional one, because we are actually trying to strike a lot of untold stories.
Yeah.
The life of a man, like I said earlier, is sacrificial. My dad, he is.
Take your time. Take
like,
your time.
he
Take your time.
is my hero. There are times, and it's funny because growing up as a child, we would disagree on a lot of things.
100.
I didn't know why. But assuming this new position, I think I understand
You get
a
it.
lot. I get it. There's just a lot. I'm trying so hard to look for
The right
one.
words.
There's just so much. But anyway, let me just take it from here. At the time, every single one of us in the house, including my mom, was a student. Fully funded by my dad. He was the only one working. So you can imagine where every morning, Mom is preparing for school, my other sister is preparing for school, I'm preparing for school. The two younger brothers I have are preparing for school, and then it's just this man who was a government, or he was a civil servant, working as he was working in Nigerian Customs Service as a then. And this is a man who got the job with his secondary school certificate. So it's not like he had the opportunity to
go, yeah.
You understand? And even looking far back, even when he got the job, it wasn't just about him alone. He had even elder brothers in the village to cater for. I think one of his elder brothers has like 12 children. You understand? In the village. And he would always want to look out for people around him. You understand? He would always want to look out for people around him. And now, bringing it back home, this is his wife, who also was yet to further her education into the higher levels. You get, so he had to make sure that she also goes further with her education. So you can imagine him, taking a pause just to make sure that we have the better life. One salary, 5 people. We're not talking about feeding alone. So Mom is going to school. The 4 children are going to school. We're talking about food. We're talking about clothing. You understand? And another thing again is I never grew up with. I can never remember a time growing up that we ever had rental issues. Ever since I knew my name, we were in a house that was ours. Up to today. You understand? And this is coming from someone who got into the Nigerian Customs Service with his secondary school certificate. At the end of the day, he retired as a level 9 worker. He didn't go far, but he was able to achieve so much than his peers. Some of them who are even in, let's say, level 12 and others, may have lived the life of, let's say, just squandering a lot of money and all. But he was really focused on improving the lifestyle of his family. We never slept hungry. Another thing I respect about this man is the way he operates. Once his salary comes in, everybody in the house knows that when Popsy's salary comes, he would withdraw everything and keep it right at the middle of everyone. So we know when the money is finishing. You know where the money is. When you have a need, tell him, go take it, go take. So that when it's finishing, you will not ask. Everybody, you can boldly see that the money has
That was a system.
Of course, it was.
That was a system.
You understand?
So beautiful.
It was. Unlike what's happening today that before you know, your wife would not even know how much is remaining, and then they will demand, and when you say no, I don't have, it looks like you don't want to. This one is everybody, you can see it.
Yeah.
Because at that time he was the sole provider. You understand? He was the sole provider. It's profound to even think about.
Amazing.
I can't imagine how much he had to go through. You understand how much he had to go through, the effect it would have had on him, you know, psychologically, you know, and also he wasn't even the type to really expect anything in return. So we rarely would even celebrate his birthdays. I remember when I got him, the day I got him a footwear as a gift, this man will wear it to almost all the meetings. Any little thing, my son gave it to me. Like he would always be proud to, you know,
say it out loud.
And it made me feel like, Kai, really, we should celebrate this man
more.
You understand? And today I have to, whenever I have,
you understand?
Of course, I will always support.
My man. My man. Talk to us. Tell us something.
I have to tell you, man, I don't like that answer. See, it put me in my feelings a lot. And the reason is, hearing you say all that, like, it's one thing, you know, to be here and we talk about how men may or may not be unappreciated and whatever. And as I said earlier, I actually believe it as well. But while he was talking, I was just kind of reflecting on my own life and my own attitude to my dad. And you mentioned birthdays. If you talk about birthdays, like, I know how much I carry my mom's birthdays on my head.
True.
It's not the same with my dad's birthdays. And he's not blind, he sees it. Do you understand?
True.
He sees it and he has never once complained about it. He's not blind. So I can't deny that surely it's in his mind. So even while talking about how fathers may be a bit unappreciated, I'm also guilty of it.
Of course.
You know? So even hearing him say that, it makes me reflect a lot. I was at my parents' house for a little bit before I came here. And just getting there straight from the office, I was still getting work calls and everything. I literally just waved at him, greeted him, because I was getting calls from the office. Thankfully, my work computer was with me. I'm like, oh, let me just set up and reply these emails so I can get on the way here. So I literally just got there. He said, what's up? How are you doing? I just greeted one kind of, I'm coming greeting. And actually, sitting on this chair was when I realized that I actually didn't go back. You know, even though I told him I'm coming. I just greeted, just walked by, set up my computer, replied the emails I needed to reply, did what I went there to do, closed the computer, got back in the car and started driving down here. And he sees those things. I think I would be deceiving myself if I assume he doesn't noticing. You understand? So it's kind of like me thinking to myself that I'm doing the same thing, you know? So that's how, and I think that's the reason why I love that we're having this conversation, because it really makes us see how deep
it is,
this goes,
actually. To
the point where even me who is talking about the fact that it happens, I'm doing it as well. You get? So, yeah, it's an interesting situation. And with my dad, I mean, the man is a good man. That's the conclusion to what I can say about him. He's a good man. Indeed and indeed. For as long as I've known him, he has been a person of sacrifice. More so, he has been a person of vision. My parents' house, they live in a pretty decent sized house. It's quite big, to be fair. But the reason why I can talk about it like that is because I can remember how it was when we entered. And that's the side that many people don't know. When I was in school, university days, I would have friends who would come and visit me at my parents'. And they were like, guy, this people's house is big. And I'll just laugh. Because, bro, when we entered that house, no roof, no window, no door, no electricity, no water, literally an uncompleted building. There were rats moving around, no tiles on the floor, literally nothing. And my little sister was born, and the man's like, look, this house we're staying in is too small. We already have a place we're building, we're moving. And I'm like, this man wants to kill us. Like, he wants to take us to the bush. But we went there, and we got in there, and I would see him struggle, not just struggle to like provide and make sure we're okay, but struggle to make sure we're okay mentally. I remember the first time he bought what should have been the door of the house, but the carpenter to do the work wasn't available for another week. So he literally bought some other wood parts and stuff, got some planks. He made it into a table tennis board. What he bought as door, since there was nobody to fix it, he laid it on top, bought table tennis, but we started playing table tennis. You know, he's that kind of guy. Like, he makes sure everyone is okay, not just physically, but tries to make sure you're good mentally as well. That's the kind of person he is.
We said it was going to be emotional, but man, it's deep, and I think we don't I think we don't appreciate fathers enough.
Yeah.
We don't, and just hearing you to see this made me realize that I've seen my dad in so many lights. You know, growing up, it wasn't a perfect home. You know, most of us were not fortunate enough to come from privileged homes.
Yeah.
Came from I literally grew up in a face me, I face you, a typical Lagos house. I mean, so seeing what my dad has done, I've seen my dad fall from a 12-story building. No exaggeration, 12-story building. He was working for Julius Berger, and he fell from the crane at Rose of Sharon and broke his waist, kinda.
And you saw it?
Yeah. So my dad, a strong man. I think if I stand, I'm buffed, right?
Yeah.
My dad is like times 2 of me.
What?
So my dad is like times 2 of me, that buffed. And, you know, being a boy that saw all of that, I saw my dad stay at home, and they told him, hey, your waist no go work again, you know. But the man still worked. He didn't give up. Like, even with that pain sometimes, once in a while he does have pains. He calls me, Afa. He still doesn't talk about it. Oh, I went to the hospital, Jai. He still tries, because he's a mason. I mean, masons are people who build houses, you know. So that's what my dad does. Like, he's an handyman, basically. So I've seen my dad do a lot of that. And before then, I didn't used to pay attention to it, because, I mean, I felt like that was just normalcy, you know. But growing up, and I'm like, I've been blessed enough to be in an industry that pays me very well. For someone my age, it pays me very well. And yet, sometimes I look at the things I've achieved, and I think I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Why? Because then my dad never had the opportunity I had, and he was able to do what he was doing.
Yeah.
It puts me in a place of
Yeah.
what was the magic these people had.
Yeah,
So I think this is where it's going to take me to the next question. We are all future dads.
Yeah.
You guys are married, and very soon the kids will come running in. So what values did you learn from your father that you want to instill into your home? And from there, what do you think you want to add more? Because like you said, we don't appreciate our fathers enough. Moms take out the accolades. And see, rightly so. Because I used to think at the time, my dad would, you know, when it's Christmas time, my mom goes to buy the clothes, but my dad gives the money. So I appreciate who buys the clothes for me, and not who gives the money.
Yeah.
You know, so, but when you think about it, what values would you say you're going to instill on your kids, or one thing you learned from your dad in particular that you want to, you know, make it a part of your future, and what more do you think you can add to that to make it perfect?
Two things really. One, my dad taught me Jesus Christ. He made sure I learned, and I don't just mean in terms of being saved, being a Christian. No, he made me understand the sacrifice it took. Of course, growing up, there was no money. We're just there, and we'll trek. Bro, I can't even describe the distance.
Before you actually continue, funny story.
Yeah.
Just out of the books, You've been to Lagos?
Yeah, I have.
So one time, I think in 2012, I lost my wallet in Obalende. And we're living in Yanawuru.
How will you go home?
We're living in Yanawuru. So it was either I trekked back to CMS to meet my mother and get transport fare, or I trekked back to Yanawuru. And I had pride. One thing that has always been constant with me is I don't know how to beg. You get me? So I remember I remember very well. I one time asked someone when I slept on the bus and they took me to Oshodi, and I asked the woman for 30 naira to add to my 70 naira so I can pay my transport fare back. The woman said, "This is how you guys behave in Lagos. This is how you guys behave in Lagos." I'm like, enjoy, Nitori long. I beg, but luckily I saw a bus that took me for 70 naira. So after that incident, I told myself, never again.
Yeah.
I trekked from Obalende to Yanawuru.
That's trauma though.
From Obalende to Yanawuru, and that was on top Melan Bridge. Anybody that understand Lagos would understand that when you trek from Obalende and you take like around Osborne, I think you get to top Melan Bridge. I trekked the entire top Melan Bridge to my house. My slippers, I think I wore one slide. When I got home, it had holes inside.
Tell me you never wore that thing again. You can't.
It was a motivation for me though. So when you said trekking, that's why I had to keep that in like real quick. So the experience you want to share is, also I think I need to lighten up the mood because damn, it's getting to me.
I get you really. So we would walk to church, and sometimes I'm kind of like, what's the point? Like, is it really that deep? But he made sure we understood how deep it was. Like, you will go to church, you will sit down and learn about God, you would hear about God, you would enjoy being there, and even on the days when it seems inconvenient, you will get up and do the same thing again. And that's kind of, even when, because there was a phase in my life when, bro, I was so far away from
God.
So far away from this, man.
I feel like everybody has to have that phase, man.
I wasn't even interested in anything.
Yeah.
But my life has been the typical example of train up a child in the way you should go. So even at that stage where I was far away, I knew what would be too far. I knew the line I couldn't cross.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, like, seeing my dad lay that example, he taught me how to really imbibe what it means to be a Christian. That's one. Two, the second thing that I got from my dad that I would love to instill in my children, I can say it about my dad and I would love for my kids to be able to say it about me, is that the man was present. He was always around. He turned down jobs even when he didn't have money. He turned down opportunities. He turned down engagements, business stuff, like anything that would just take him from not being with his family. It was a no-brainer for him. He was always around. And something that money, no money, school fees, no school fees, I would always appreciate, because it created a certain kind of bond between us where I kind of felt like I could hide there. I felt like if something was happening to me outside, I can run to him and hide. And I would just be there, because no matter what, he was always around. I personally, and I mean this in literal terms, I can't remember any time, and I mean this literally, where I called my dad and he didn't pick. I don't remember any. Maybe it has happened once or twice. I can't remember. He's always just there. Like, he's there. He's that guy that is always available. And it doesn't mean that he's not doing things. But when it comes to his family, he doesn't joke. And that's, like, even the way I'm speaking about it now is something that I really hope and pray, and I'm working towards my own kids being able to one day talk about me in the same light. So yeah, I think those two are the very basic ones.
Alex was shaking. Well, coming to you, Alex, tell us what's that thing?
So for my dad, right, one of the values I would really love to instill in my own family would be, he placed so much value on family. He made us understand that family comes first, regardless. So, I have a family where we celebrate each other's win, no matter how small. On my birthday, everyone in the family would celebrate me. They probably would be the ones to wake me up from sleep on that day. You get? And it's the fact that growing up, it was like every Sunday was like a day to go out to chill. You understand? I remember there are times, even when we're not going out to, let's say, eat or something, if there's no money to eat out, if there's fuel in the car, right? All he would do was to take us round town. We stay all the way around Kubwa. So we'll drive to Asokoro, we'll showing us places. We'll be in the car for hours. When we were back home, we'll be exhausted. We just want to sleep. You understand? So he made us understand that family time is so important.
So precious.
It's so important. And one more thing, he made each and every one of us in the house feel valued. So I have a funny family. Like, you can be the last born. You can be the last born, right? And call for a meeting in the house. You understand? So anyone in the house can call for a meeting, and every single person would be present for that meeting. My dad would sit because I am calling a meeting in the house, and he would listen to me speak. One more thing I would also add is the fact that, just like you said, Sammy mentioned that his dad was present. My dad he is always present. You understand? There's this time that he would make himself very available to you in any dimension. He's this kind of father that no matter the mess you've gotten yourself into, just come, be open,
be honest.
Be honest. He values honesty. So let me give you this quick story. In 2011, I finished secondary school in 2010. So 2011, I had to go for my signing to get my statement of result and all. On my way back, I met this one chance guys. And it's crazy because this was years back. And it's still funny that they still do it even in times
like this.
Like in recent times, you get.
Yeah, right.
Like, so far back as 2011, I was coming back, and right there at Wuse Market Junction, this man just came to me and was speaking rubbish. Speaking like one Senegalese, trying to cut English and French. I didn't understand what he was saying. Another man from his back just came and was like, what is happening? What is he telling you? I said, I don't understand. The next thing, the man spoke the rubbish and the man could interpret. And that was how the next thing was like, hey, he has gold, he has this, he had that, blah, 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 blah. I was so small. That was how they carried me.
What?
From Wuse down to, what's it called? Karimu. I'm telling you, went to Karimu inside one bush.
Wow.
I was so small, like, you get. To cut the whole long story short, when I saw money, I saw them change paper to money in my eyes, like right before my eyes. I was even the one that brought the money out of the water and all. Then what now happened was they're now like, okay, they need money to buy the chemical that we used to change and all. Like before then, there was also this they called one man that would want to use spiritual things to lock us, not to tell any other person outside just the three of us at the time. So we agreed not to spill. And the next thing, the man could tell me that, okay, if I go to my house, I should check here and here and here, I'll find money. You get. So I went to my house. So this thing lasted for like 2 days.
What?
I'm telling you. So I went back home. And remember I told you that my dad would always drop his salary.
Yeah, until.
So I went home and I packed what was left for the family.
Whoa.
I think it was 97,000 naira as a day.
Oof. 2011, right?
2011, yeah.
That's a lot of money.
I moved that money and I went to give it to these guys, thinking, okay,
You get
I'll
multiplied.
get more. Do you understand? And when I went back there, I gave them the money. The next thing, they brought a lot of bags of different currencies. But this spiritual man was now saying that this money is a virgin money. It's too hot. Like, it's the kind of money that if you use to buy a car, you can have an accident with it, blah, 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 blah. It was just cooking up stories. I was very naive at the then, and then I was told to go back home. And when I get back home, I should cry, let people gather, and I'll tell them that I saw a man. They were just giving me story to tell people, that I saw a man, white garment people, blah, 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 blah. And that was how they asked me to go and bring money, and I gave them. He just cooked up stories like that for me.
Yeah.
Do you know that I kept giving them that story at home? My dad was so disappointed. He wanted to call the police for me. He said I was going to tell the truth no matter what. And I had to stick with my story because of the fact that I had taken an oath, or maybe
Yeah.
Something that seemed like it.
something that seemed like it. But something stood out to me. The second night, right in the middle of the night, I was in the room sleeping, and my dad just tapped me and told me to come join him in the sitting room. Then he told me this man to man. He said, his name is also Alex. I'm Alex Jr., you get. She was like, Alex, tell me, did you get a woman pregnant? He said, did you get a woman pregnant and you gave it to her? Like, Daddy, I did not. He said, don't call me dad. Ha! The man was very disappointed, but then he was trying to give me the worst experience to make me feel like it's not that
like
bad.
it's okay
I can
to say
open
what
up
it is.
again.
Yeah. Wow.
I stuck to my story, Sha. At the end of the day, in the morning, he just called me and told me, he said, that money was his money. I know how he worked hard for it. He said, but let's let it go. Let's let the money go. That there's no need for me to, because I was cold. I was reserved. A lot of things were happening at once. I couldn't imagine that I just fell for this. And it lasted for 2 days.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that even at that, he would, even if do you know how bad it can be, because that was the only money at the time for us. So the
As a
entire family
family
had to tighten our belt because this guy Alex threw the money away. You understand? And he was there to let me know that, okay, I forgive you. Let's just forget about this. In fact, don't think about it anymore. He was telling me that he has been noticing how reserved I am. You understand? That I should stop being sober.
Let it go.
I should, get myself up. I should have fun also. I should go play and all. And like, the man was just really good. He really taught me what being a true father
Looks like.
looks like.
So
Yeah,
Love it.
those are things you would basically
of course.
bring back. Okay, so funny story. In 2021, I think that was post-lockdown.
Yeah.
At the time, I had friends who were, doing so much. I was still in school. I graduated that 2021. Then I had like friends who were doing so well. And then I already started my tech career in like 2018, but money wasn't coming. I was the brokest in school at the time. So in 2021, when I was done with, that period I was in school generally. And I remember very well, my friends were doing, some of my guys at the time started doing fraud. And this is where I want to bring father instinct into the equation. And, a friend of mine was like, easy, you know how to speak well. But you broke. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. Then he said, can't do this thing now. Now, as a young man, especially in a country like Nigeria, where your future is very uncertain, it's bleak, So I said, okay, let me give it a shot. So I had like an Android phone at the time. And I said, okay, no problem. I think I did a lot of jobs. Nothing was paying. I was selling in the market. I did Hype Man.
Me too.
I did hype, man. So that particular day, I got this phone and was like, okay, they will teach me how to do it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm game. So we got into the learning process, and they were like, you know, the term they use is bomb. So they were like, hey, you go bomb this account. So I was like, okay. The night I got the phone and they set up the whole accounts for me, my dad called me. Now, my call with my dad is usually 1 minute, 26 seconds. How are you doing? How's everything? I hope you're fine.
Okay.
God is in control. All right, take care. I just like to hear your voice. That's my dad. My dad called me for 26 minutes, 46 seconds. I still have it. I screenshotted it. And everything my dad was saying on that call was, I know times are hard. I know things are hard, but keep believing God. I know you've never been opportune. Like, he was just saying a whole lot of good things. And I'm like, where is this coming from? You know, where is this preaching coming from? Because that's not my dad, understand? And all he was saying was, keep believing God. Don't let the world make you do something you would regret in the future.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I remember when he was done with that call, and he was saying like a lot of things. My dad is a twin, by the way. Yeah, my dad is a twin. So when he was done, he was just, then after he was done advising me, I think he was telling me something about his twin brother. Then he came back again and said, trust God. He said he was going to make a way for you since the day you were born. So keep believing him. Ended the call. And you remember I screenshotted it, like, because me and my papa never talk, reached 26 minutes before for phone. So I remember I went inside the house, picked up the phone, wiped it. I think then Android phone, once you do the lock button and I wiped the entire phone. The next morning I put it up on GG and I sold it. 6 months down the line, nothing was still working. But I just told myself I'm not compromising.
Yeah.
That same year, I got my first deal that paid me $1 million. And in my industry, the tech industry I belong to, especially the Web3 world, it's very hard for you to get things like that. And before you know, things started playing in the right way. This is where also I moved astray from God a little bit. You know, when that came in, you know, I got frugal with the way I was spending. I was never a club person, but there were things I was doing that wasn't just making sense. Then I lost everything again. And my dad still called me and, you know, still gave me advice. He didn't even know I had lost everything I made, you know, but he gave me advice and drew me closer. Now, my dad wasn't a church person, but he was a believer.
Okay.
Understand? He wasn't every day go to church.
Yeah.
No, he was never that guy. But he was a strong believer. He pays his tithes. He knew how to even do it practically. He would tell you about the Bible, but to go to church was not lie you. My father would do it. So it draws the question. Some parents do have this crazy instinct when it comes to how to nurture. Is it the question I want to ask? I know as future parents, do you think with the way the world is moving, this fast-paced world where everybody's going crazy, what values you now do you think you're going to put in place, aside from your Christian belief, your faith, your love for God, which is something you're going to transfer to your children?
Of course.
You know, but you know, when they grow up, they'll be the ones to decide that for themselves.
Of course.
What's that thing you think, as a young parent now growing up in this fast-paced world, that you want your kids to have as an extension of you?
I'm happy that you lay the background of the world we are living in, where everything is going nuts, pretty much. I think one thing that's important for me, and I think this is my answer because it's my position with all other relationships I have, friends, you know, partners, business and everything, my wife, everything else. So it's the same thing with kids, considering the generation we're living in, which I believe a lot of these things would only get worse, right? Is a sense of truth, that there actually is something called truth that's not left to self-determination. It's not left to bandwagon. There's actually a center. And so I believe it's important as a father for my kids to understand that the fact that everybody believes something doesn't mean it's true.
It's true, yeah.
And the boldness to be different. Let me give you an example. I was watching this documentary a couple of days ago, and it was about this woman who told everyone that she had cancer, and she said, oh, she hates, medical science, so she wasn't taking the doctor's whatever. She was going to do things the herbal way. She started a page online. She was doing really well. People were following her. See how she's looking fresh, and everything, even with her cancer. Started getting deals. Got a book deal with the biggest publishing company in her country. I don't want to mention names. She got a big app deal with one of the biggest electronic manufacturers. She was doing really great. Now, a friend of hers saw her at her son's birthday party because she was a single mom, and she just collapsed out of nowhere. And the moment that one said, oh, let's call the ambulance, she woke up. She said, oh, I don't like medical science. So that one became suspicious. That this thing, they add up like that. You understand? Then there was this other guy who saw her online, whose wife had the same cancers, plural, because she said she had multiple cancers, whose wife had the same ones, and his wife was in terrible shape. So the guy was also suspecting that there's something wrong about this, So those were the only two people that started investigating. And one thing I realized, eventually she was found out. She didn't even have cancers to begin with.
Wow.
And she was living a life, totally. Now, what I realized from that was the fact that if you think about it critically, right? Even the doctor, she said, made the initial diagnosis, didn't even exist. Yeah. She didn't have any paper to show the diagnosis. Nothing. So it was really a problem of people simply asking questions. Nobody just asked any question. She didn't even have these layers of cover-ups that maybe you need some forensic experts or some cancer doctors or anything like that. No, she had nothing. She just said it and people just swallowed it. You get what I mean? So it's kind of like, I learned from that the voice of the majority is not usually the right one. Because many people are not studious or diligent enough to ask the questions they should be asking, right? So that's certainly one quality that I would love for my children to have, to be able to find out what is true and stand there, even when pretty much everybody else is saying the direct opposite. And it's tough. It's tough because even in the lives we're living now as men, we know the burden that comes with having to stand away from the crowd when need be and say, no, I won't follow on this basis. I won't do this because everyone is doing it. I won't say this because everyone is saying it. That ability to be able to stand. I've been approached by a cult group before. They just dragged me into the bush. And I'm happy that they were trying to convince me to join rather than trying to force it by violence. I think that was the saving grace God gave me that day. So he started with begging. They beg. They say, we've been noticing you, we've been observing you.
So that's the first line.
You understand? Then it moved from that to, you are a man, or real men ought to do this. And you know how that statement comes across for guys. It's kind of like, okay, you want to show that you are a real man. You understand? That day, me, I'm like, okay, if it's by that one, if that's the yardstick, leave me.
I don't really
let me be fake. Thank you, sir. You get? So it's kind of like that ability to, even when everyone is saying one thing, as far as you have the conviction that that thing they are saying is falsehood, you stand on what is true and you maintain it notwithstanding.
Amazing. That's an amazing perspective. This is where I think I want to, let's hit it, right down to the head so that, we can call it a wrap. Yeah. So a lot has been said, a lot has been shared. Secrets most times are slipped out. So, one or two don't come out. So this is it. Moving ahead. What do you think we can do better as men of this generation to appreciate fathers more? I think this is where we're going to leave it at. So I think I'll start with you, Alex.
I think there should be a certain level of sensitization because of the fact that this is a culture that has been built over the years. You understand? So we need to counter this culture. So there should be some level of sensitization. In fact, I think that's where the community I'm building, King's Routine, comes to play. You know, it's going to be a community of kingdom-minded individuals who understand what it really is to be a leader, as it has been ordained even from the beginning. You understand? So it's where we would have young men, you know, teenage boys, take some level of training, not just training, but then we'll just share experiences and also get to teach them, because no one taught us. We just grew up into this. We were boys. We've never had
There's
the
no
opportunity
manual
to be
to
men.
There's no manual to. There's
You
no manual
understand?
to it.
And there's really no blueprint, no manual. You get. So we need people that can hold our hands, you know, to show us the path to take. You understand? So in terms of being celebrated, like I said earlier, there should be a level of sensitization. We need to put it out there. The issue is that nobody keeps talking about this. It's really a conversation you would find. You understand? It's really a conversation you would find. In fact, for instance, like domestic violence. Whenever you hear domestic violence, we only want to see the woman as the victim. We can't even settle it in our heads to even in our imagination. It's still unsettling.
Yeah. That
a man can be a victim of domestic violence. You understand? You just say this man, I'm a woman or something. You understand? So it's just, it's there should be a well thought out plan to have this debunked and let it sink in the hearts of many, especially children, especially wives. I think if we go from the route of mothers, I think it would help, even helping the children cultivate this culture. You understand? Where, for instance, if you notice, you as a mother, I know children tend to they tend to go the way the mother wants most times. You understand? So because I don't see it wrong when the mother would redirect some kind of praises to the father. Like, you know, when the child comes and they're like, mommy, blah, 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 and I'll be like, oh yeah, why not? Go thank your dad, go and, you understand? There are certain things that you can actually do. It's daddy's birthday. From 3 days before his birthday, for instance, start telling children, it's daddy's birthday, let's plan, you understand? So that they have the mindset of the fact that daddy's birthday is also a special day that doesn't need to be thought of overnight.
Amazing.
It should be planned properly, the same way we would plan for mom. You understand? So I think.
All right. So just quickly though.
Okay. So I think for me, I wouldn't want us to end this without also recognizing the fact that it's easy for us to say, talk about how great our fathers were and everything without. I think it would be remiss to not acknowledge the fact that it's not that way for everyone. Not everyone can tell those same kind of stories. Sure. In fact, for some people, it's the actual opposite of that. You get what I mean? For me personally, one of the things I'm scared of my children finding out, it will come to that, but I'm scared of it, is that I know that even with my dad, as much as I saw him as a hero, it got to points where where he was humanized. I saw the real man behind, and some of it I didn't really like. And it scares me to get to that point with my own kids where they'll see things in me that they don't really like, you know. And so I think one thing that would help us in celebrating men is telling our stories. I don't think we do it enough. I don't think we do this enough. If I should give one example, I have a community of guys that we see, we fellowship together, we pray together, talk together as well. One of the days when we met, and I kid you not, this is fact of what happened. We met, we hung out, we had eaten, gisted, laughed, and one of us was just like, guys, let's just talk about some real stuff. Do you know, for the next 1 hour, talking about real stuff, we discovered that 4, and I kid you not, 4 guys on that table, right, their wives had miscarriages in the same hospital. Wow. Yes. And a 5th guy there, his brother's wife was having antenatal from that same hospital.
Wow.
It's that deep. Do you understand? So if we talk more, that's to tell you how much we could relate to each other. And it will actually help us appreciate one another more. and by virtue of appreciation, celebrate each other even more.
Amazing. Whew. This has been an amazing.
Deep breath.
Yeah, this has been an amazing. Session.
Very, very emotional.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, this has been an amazing, session, and I think just to crown it up is, as men out there, we love you, we appreciate you, we see the struggle as fellow men, we see the struggle, and we believe that it's gonna get better.
It will.
Just keep doing the amazing things you're doing. Keep, being the fathers you are, the amazing fathers. Keep providing, keep sacrificing for your family, and know for sure the reward is not just going to be in heaven, but it's also going to happen here on earth pretty soon. So we love you and we celebrate you, and we can't wait to have this session with you again. Thank you so much, guys, for coming up on this podcast.
Thanks, man.
And doing it. I remain your humble host.
Thanks,
Yes, I remain your humble host, Israel Ozane. See you next time.